Well, I got a chance to look at the opening ceremonies after all. As if you read the newsletter article this week, you know that I blow a little hot and cold, mostly cold, when it comes to the opening ceremonies. Nevertheless, it is an Olympic season, and some of the stories that come out are truly remarkable stories. And I don't know if you caught this one, but this morning, and I think it was kind of knocking around the internet last night, there's a story that one of the Olympians this year is a Syrian refugee, and a remarkable young woman, a swimmer, as it turns out. And what makes her story remarkable, not only is she obviously a tremendously accomplished athlete and good for her, but she is someone who was caught up in the incredible tragedy of migration that has been playing out in the news for a little over a year now, I think. And anyway, at one point she was in a sinking boat, and she jumped out of the boat and swam the boat, pushing the boat personally for 3 hours as it was sinking to get it to safety. And so she not only got to safety herself, she saw that 20 people lived to enter the next chapter of their journey. And what a remarkable story that is. But I read a story like that, and there's a part of me that wonders, gosh, what goes through your mind when you're in the water? What goes through your mind when you're the one who's pushing that boat? Knowing, as surely an athlete must know, what it is that she's capable of physically, and yet here in this incredibly different set of circumstances being asked to do something that she's never done before. And I think that takes in its own way not self-confidence, but something much deeper. And I think that thing is faith. Hope. A sense of the possibilities of that which is not seen, but nevertheless that calls to you, that prompts you. And I'm very moved by that. I'm sure everybody who hears that story is moved by that. And yet I think not everybody is going to look at that and say, somehow, in some way, that's about faith. They'll say it's about survival, about that sort of raw human instinct, but I don't think so. I think there's a lot of place for raw human instinct in this world, for sure. But something else prompts us that way, because I think we also know that there are plenty of people who say, I'm on a sinking ship, I'm a pretty good swimmer, and they would dive off the front and swim for shore themselves. Something else prompts a person to get in the water and push that boat. And I wonder where it comes from today. I wonder what that is. It is interesting to me then to get these two stories from Genesis and from Hebrews. You heard Abram is the person they spoke about in Genesis. That's the same person as Abraham from the second reading. Abram is the name that Abraham has before his great encounter with God. God renames Abraham, because when God intervenes in Abraham's life and tells him what the promises truly are, he says, you're not the person that you were. And so you are renamed, as is Abraham's wife, Sarai, who becomes Sarah. Something is changed, and God names that change because God intervenes in a powerful way, because faith is called to intervene in a powerful way. But we talk about faith in a funny way. Those of you who have relatives, especially who are of more of an evangelical cast, you may know people who say how important it is just to believe, just to give your life, to the story of Jesus, just to give your life up to God. And that don't worry if you do, all the rest is going to rush in. God will pick you up. You just need to make that leap of faith. And that's kind of hard for a lot of people. It's hard for me. Maybe it's hard for you. And so I've been really wrestling with this over the last couple of days. What is that move that we make that makes us make the leap? And it occurred to me that, I think there are those who can make that leap. But for most of us, and certainly for me, I think it's that you need to have at least some little glimpse beforehand of what might be. Or you need to have somebody who sees. And you may not see what it is they see, but you see that they see it and you trust that. And so faith is this funny thing that it isn't simply that you just decide to have it. I think it's that you take on great faith the testimony of the people that you see and the people that you know. And you're willing to follow that. And somehow that, in its own way, becomes how it begins. I'm thinking this week of the people who, along the way, believed in me when I was younger. You have that person in your mind, that person who it was who believed in you. Can you think of who that was? Parents often believe in it. Sometimes parents don't. I know that too. Often there are parents who believe in us, who tell us you're going to be wonderful, you're going to do great things. We love you no matter what, but don't do anything stupid. Really often, though, in our lives, the person who kind of points us on the path is some other person. A neighbor, a teacher, a scoutmaster, a wonderful aunt. Some person who sees something in us and we're able to hear it from them in a powerful way. And somehow that shapes us because we believe from them what it is they say. For me, it was probably my 9th grade English teacher, Ms. Oakes. I've talked about Ms. Oakes before. She's the person, remember the postcard story? Some of you remember the postcard story. She sent me a postcard. We're not going to retell the story. Anyway, my 9th grade English teacher, Miss Oakes, who, after I was a teacher, I realized how much time I intervened in her life when she was trying desperately to do grading. I would go to her office when I had a free period and she had a free period. Here's the thing about teaching. You never have a free period. Free periods are when you desperately try to catch up. But good soul that Miss Oakes was, she always put her grading to the side and would sit there and just listen to whatever the perils of Max Grant's life happened to be that day. But she also saw something in me that I could hear from her about being a student, about being a writer, about being someone who cared about the world and wanted to see how it could be a better place. And somehow when I saw that that's what she thought, I wanted to be that even more. And that was so important at that moment in my life, to have someone who blessed who it is I might be and who saw who it was I could become. I'm looking at my 2 musicians here, and I know that there's probably someone in their history early on who said, you should have a solo. Or, Martha, you're actually pretty good with the piano there. There is someone who first said that. And those people are so important in our lives. And I think what we miss sometimes as we talk about faith is those people are important in our faith also. For as much as we say that faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen, often we are not the people who are hoping just yet. Often we are not the people who see something that is a better country just yet. But someone we know sees it and calls us to follow it, as indeed God promised to Abram. And as indeed so many people in our lives do for us. And I guess the thing that it leads us to reflect on, or I hope it does, is how can we be that for someone else? How can we be the person who names what it is we see in them and offer it by way of encouragement, offer it by way of vision, offer it by way of faith, offer it by way of love. Give people that recognition of who it is that they might be, and help them to imagine some new journey. We know that journeys always have twists and turns. That young Olympian who is a great swimmer was told, hey, your swimming's pretty good. You should stay in the pool for a little bit longer. Who knew that all that training would be used to a far more humane purpose than simply athletic glory? Who knew? There is so much we don't know. But we learn to take the journey thanks to people along the way who reach out to us and encourage us and help us to see that getting the tools to become someone others can rely on is something that we want to give our life to. Paul speaks about what it is to desire a better country. He says, as it is, they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Right now, there are a lot of better countries we might desire. And I don't know what that means for you. But I think the great summons of our faith is to say, as we desire that better country, let us not desire it simply for ourselves, because that's not what faith is. Desiring the better country is about helping someone else to begin to see that country and journeying there together. May it be so for you. Amen.